Welcome back to the transformation unit part 3, and this is the part where we're going to actually be multiplying and dividing with some numbers. So let's take a look at some actual equations. Here we have y equals 3 times x, the whole quantity squared. Now we have a multiplication here, and we have to decide, is it with the x or is it with the y? And to determine if it's with the x, it has to be inside the parentheses raised to the power of 2. So because that 3 is inside those parentheses with the x and is raised to the second power, it is grouped with the x. So because it's grouped with the x, it's going to produce a horizontal change, and since it's multiplication, it's going to be a horizontal compression. So we'll see what that does to our graph. Here we have the parent function in red, and what happens again from the previous video, if you remember, if we have a horizontal compression, it squishes that function from left to right, right to left, and makes it skinnier. Now here we have a slightly different function, and notice here that we have y equals 3x squared, and the 3 is not in parentheses with the x raised to the second power. So the 3 actually doesn't belong with the x, it belongs with the y. So we're going to move it to the other side by dividing both sides by 3. And when we do that, our resulting equation is y divided by 3 equals x squared. So in this case, we have something grouped with y, which is going to produce a vertical change, and it is division, so that division is going to produce a stretch. So here we're going to have a vertical stretch. And if you recall from day 2 or part 2, a vertical stretch is going to have the same effect for the most part as a horizontal compression. Not exactly the same. It's going to have a slightly less effect, but for the most part it's going to be vertically stretched and skinny. Here's an example where we have a 2 that is being multiplied by the y, and that is grouped with the y, so it's going to produce a vertical change, and in this case it's multiplication, so that multiplication is going to indicate that we have a vertical compression. Now if you remember from part 2 again, vertical compression is going to squish the function from top to bottom, making it wider. Here we'll do an absolute value function, and we have y equals the absolute value of x divided by 3. Notice the dividing is inside the absolute value and therefore is acting on the x. So we have our stuff grouped with x, it is division, and so that is going to produce a horizontal stretch. What that does to the graph, it stretches horizontally, so the red is stretched even further and wider. That's the end of part 3. There's some numerical values in there. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 4 where we do some reflections.